Last time we talked, you said something to me that stuck with me.
Okay.
It sounded like this: I don't do fear. And I got chills, and I still do. Please tell me about this.
Well, many years ago, as a child, I grew up in fear. I lived in an alcoholic home, um, had a lot of emotional neglect. My needs were taken care of, things like that. But I was constantly afraid of what was going to happen. Um, Nightmares. I just grew up in fear. And so I decided as an adult, after many other traumas and times of abandonment and things like that, that I just wasn't going to be fearful anymore because it gave all my power away. And that the fear that I allowed to live inside of me actually was killing me. And so I just decided no more fear. Now, there are things that frighten me. For example, the having a losing a child or something like that would terrify me, at the thought of that. However, I know that I am not in control of any of that. And so when I feel fear or start to hear those little, voices that come and say, "Oh, you should be afraid of this," or this is awful and terrible, and you should feel this and you feel, I say, no, no, I'm not going to allow this because it takes away my power. It weakens any of those negative thoughts, any of that negativity that I allow to be around me, then goes out from me as well. So I really try to only emit positive energy, energy of light. And so I just don't do fear anymore.
Oh my gosh, your words just are fire and comfort for me.
Yeah, I mean, and that was a very long journey. I didn't really start to practice that much until I was about 60 probably. And I just turned 71. So I am, now trying to live that every day and just not be afraid.
Oh my God. Aho, that's beautiful.
Oh,
Hi, everyone. This is The Sacred Journey, the journey of a woman who holds. And my guest today is a beautiful, wise woman, Deb Hartzler, a woman who really holds. Since I know her, I just feel this continuous wisdom, this presence, this joy about her. And yeah, when last time we talked, I could just resonate with her words so much. Deb, I'm so glad that you are here. I have so much to learn from you, and we have, I think, women, we have so much to learn from each other and share things that we know. And yes, I truly believe that you are such a wonderful, wise woman. And I don't know your full story, so please just, yeah, answer these questions and go deeper, as deep as you wish. And
okay.
but I know that you've been through a difficult illness. Can we talk about that?
Sure,
You-
absolutely. But first, let me thank you for having me. I appreciate this. I know that I have had trouble speaking my truth, and you are allowing me to do that. So that's a gift to me.
Oh my God, the same. You're so welcome, and I'm so grateful. Well, welcome, and let's just dive in. Let's just go as
Okay.
deep as we can because this space, my intention is to have it for women who struggle with the same issues that you briefly mentioned. Fear, that's a very paralyzing and very typical thing,
Yes.
one of the worst things probably, and not being our authentic selves as women. And as you said, that you just, well, recently it's been more than a decade that you are on this authentic path. But please, can you tell us about, you mentioned briefly your childhood, but as an adult woman before this waking up or this decision, who were you before? And why was it hard on you?
Well, I was born in the 50s. And so I was raised to be a mother and a wife and nothing more. To be a servant to men, as a mother, and a servant to children, as a wife, and to my children as a mother. And I was very good at that. However, I lost everything that was me while doing that because I chose to marry a version of my father, but worse, 10 times worse. And that's what kids do when they're raised in those kind of environments. And so I was emotionally abused. I was neglected. And so everything I did was for them. I did nothing for myself. Nothing. I left school when I was 16 because I was expecting a baby. And I was married at, let's see, how old was I? 17. And a mother at 17. And you grow up real quick. I'd never done laundry. I'd never done anything. I'd never been expected to do anything but go to school. And so all of a sudden I'm a mother and I have no help and I have no support. And then the drugs began and all of that for him and the cheating and all of those things. And, now as an adult, I see back that he was also, had a childhood that was traumatizing for him in some ways. And I don't blame him, but he was my life. He was my life. I had invested everything in this other person. And so to suddenly be alone with now 2 children, 23 years old and alone, single mother, didn't even have, well, I did have my high school diploma because I went back to school to get that. But no job. I'd never worked. I didn't even drive till because all I did was live his life. So I find myself alone and and I have always been a worker. I will never quit and I don't ask for help. And that's one of my problems is I do not ask for help. So ladies, please ask for help. It's out there if you need it. People want to help you. They really do. It's just I was so stubborn and, I am an earth sign. I am a Taurus. So I'm a tad stubborn. And I don't ask for help. I still don't ask for help. And you'll see that as we go through my life. But yeah, those were hard years. My first husband actually kicked me out when I was pregnant, told me he wasn't going to take care of me anymore. And I had to go back home to my mother's house, so it was very traumatic. And I learned not to trust anyone but myself. So, so going through that and then remarrying person who I thought was safe turned out to be narcissistic. And, I thought, well, I'm not going to marry a drug person or an alcoholic. I'm going to marry someone that doesn't do any of that. And that will just solve everything. No, because again, I was following his life, not mine. I was making choices that were better for other people than myself. And in that case, you always make the choices that are best for your children or you think are best for your children. But ended up not being so much either. So again, here I am. Now I have 3 children and I'm living a life that I feel like I'm trapped in a cage. I can't be me. No one cares. As long as I show up and do the work and the food's on the table and the laundry's done, no one cares who I am. Not at work, not at home, just, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, that's it. I go to work. So then at 47, I think I was 47, I find out that he is also not faithful. And all of a sudden I had the key to the cage. And it was like, I just got chills telling you that. But anyways, I had the key to the cage and I could finally let myself out, finally set myself free. So I took a year because it's a roller coaster when something like that happens. And I'm 47 years old. I have the only retirement that I had or stability I had was in that arrangement. Okay, let's say that. So I took a year and rode this roller coaster and decided what I wanted to do before I made a decision and opened that door to let myself out. And when I did, I wasn't afraid at all. I wasn't afraid at all. I was so, what do I want to say? I was free. And it didn't matter if I had money and it didn't matter about anything else, but I was free and I was free to do whatever I wanted to do. And no one could tell me any different. You know what I mean? So I bought a house and I got a job, a better job, and I created my future, that now I am able to be retired and all of that. But that was because of choices that I made out of wisdom and trauma that I had earned that wisdom. You know what I mean? And it wasn't easy. I mean, there were times when you just want to give up. And I mean, this is the short version of this long story, but you just want to give up. But like, again, I'm stubborn. I don't allow, my personal integrity is more important to me than how I show up in the world, to anybody else. So, you know what I mean? So
Yes.
I fought for myself at that point. My kids were grown and pretty much grown. And so, yeah, that was a turning point. And then I was probably around 50 at that time. So do you have any questions or would you like me to?
I do, but I just thank you so much. Yeah, when you said you opened that cage, what was it really now looking back? Was it absolutely being tired of your old life and disappointment and always just pleasing others? Was it that it was just a last drop or a last straw when you were cheated on again? What happened? How did you just suddenly, from that entrapment,
Well,
become
I
free?
just, for years, I had felt trapped. But it wasn't good. It wasn't bad. It was just comfortable. And, and it paid the bills and I was able to put the kids through school and, all those kind of things. And it wasn't uncomfortable. It just wasn't anything. There was no emotion. It was dead space. I lived in dead space.
Did you
There was,
feel, sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. No, what was the question?
Did you feel that your soul was shrinking
Yes,
or dying?
yes. There was no reason. It was the same every single day. Get up, go to work, do the laundry, come home, go to bed, get up, go to work, do the laundry. I had no joy. We had no friends. I had no, I mean, I had acquaintances at work, so when I was at work, I felt like a human. But
Mhm.
when, and had a purpose, you know what I mean, at work. But at home, it was just dead space. I just felt like there was nothing there for me. But I had given an oath to God and, made a commitment to this marriage, and I wasn't going to do it. I wasn't going to take care of myself. I was going to do, like I said, my personal integrity is very important to me. So, but boy, when I had the key, then it was like, oh, wow, I have power now. I have power. I did not break this deal. This deal is broken. And now I can decide how I move forward from that point.
Oh my gosh. What would you say to a woman who is in that your past self situation, in that entrapment, not living her true life, not feeling fulfilled? What would you advise? to someone like that?
Listen to yourself. Listen, you know yourself, you know your true self, you know what you're supposed to be doing, you know that this is not right. Give yourself your power back. Take it back. Take it back. It's yours, it's no one else's. As long as we give it away, it's gone. But as soon as you take it back, you empower yourself and give yourself the ability to move forward, sideways, up, down, wherever you want to move. And I'm not your average person. People consider me a little quirky. So my way of doing things isn't necessarily the let's say normal way that someone would do it, but it's my way, and that's the way I like it.
Oh my gosh, that's how an authentic wise woman sounds. Yeah, I wish we knew these lessons, or somebody, talked about these honestly when we were younger. I think I speak in the name of many women that we
Yes.
kind of were misled. Maybe my generation still, but yours, what you said, that
Oh,
that was the
oh,
norm.
totally misled. You grow up, you're just going to be a mother, a wife, and you're going to have a house with a white picket fence. What a big fat lie that was, you know. So, yeah.
And yet you are a mother, a grandmother, a holding woman, and you find fulfillment in that. So I just kind of want to
Yes.
touch upon this, especially in this country. I feel that, yeah, women were so suppressed that now maybe the pendulum is swinging to the absolute other end. Why I personally, and I hear from, your words too, valuing, absolutely valuing being a mother, if that's your
Yeah.
choice. But what is missing? I feel that it's not the problem being a wife and a mother, but something, that emptiness, that dishonesty about it.
Mhm.
What do you
Well,
think about this?
there are so many expectations for women's behavior.
Yeah,
And let's say also men's behavior. So a man,
true.
in order to be a man, must consider a woman less in many ways, less valuable, less, this is her job. I don't do this, whatever. Now that's not the case. It's shifting. But there are still many women who are not treated the way that they treat their families. You know what I mean? Husbands
Yes.
are not emotionally supportive. They aren't a safe place to land.
Oh
You
my
know what I
gosh.
mean?
Yes.
And I feel like part of that is the culture we live in, especially in the United States. And then you have all this social media that's telling you how you're supposed to be, how you're supposed to think, what you're supposed to believe, and you're wrong if you don't. So here goes the guilt and the shame that I had from questioning God or the church or whatever, to now we're questioning everything. I heard a story from someone the other day about how they have trouble getting their child to school because they're so worried about how they look that they'd rather be late for school than look a certain way that's going to cause them to be bullied or have attention drawn to them. And that's very sad to me. Very, very sad. And so I think just the way that our culture is now and the way that people are told, we were also told, girls couldn't even wear pants to school when I was a kid. You know what I mean? So you were told that, girls couldn't do this because they just couldn't, and that, and you know. But yeah, I think a lot of it is culture and a lot of how men are raised in families.
Hmm.
And I will say, I have a son, and I am very, very proud of him. He is an excellent father, an excellent husband, and just a good man. But he was raised by women. So, with very little male influence. So
Wow.
I think it's just a different way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Or
So it's mainly that, yeah, the distortion
I
in the
mean,
net.
that's what I think. I mean, I have, I'm sure there are many other opinions, but yeah.
That's what you witnessed. And yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
Whatever, for example, I get as a feedback from my husband's upbringing, there comes the whole generational heaviness of his grandparents' era and all those roles, which would be a beautiful thing. Like you look at a natural tribe, or a
Sure.
society that is connected with nature, still have men and women and different roles maybe, but a more natural flow and respect, maybe the mutual
Yes, yes,
respect. Yeah.
yes, yes. And the giving to each other. Now no one there everyone's a taker. They
Ah, yeah.
take. They don't give.
No.
And I was always a giver. Always, always a giver. Until I had to set boundaries, and we talked about boundaries before and how important they are. But yeah.
Yes, that very important. And I want you to talk about how did you start to set your boundaries from this space in practical, practical steps, because I feel the emotional, it just bursted out and you became free. But how did you do this in a practical way?
Well, that was very much more logical, and watching. I mean, I don't feel like when you give something that you should be given back something. I mean, that you should expect to be given back something. But the way that the world works, that there's reciprocity for those things. You know what I mean? That you give out, let's say we give to the universe. The universe always gives back to us. We put out good energy, it always comes back. But let's say, we volunteer to help someone. And then this person just always expects you to be the person that's the helper. This happened to me many times with volunteering. I would sign up to volunteer. And for years I volunteered for an agency in our county. And guess who got to be the only person that they would call to do these things, because I always showed up, I always did a good job, and it just got to be where I finally had to say no. No, don't call me anymore, because it was draining me, and I was giving, but I felt nothing doing it. You know what I mean? I felt nothing again.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I did that in another agency. And I worked there for like 8 years doing things. And, again, it kind of got to be the same thing. And it was a passion of mine to be in this group. But then it just got to be no, oh, well, Deb will do it. Let's call Deb, she'll do it, and I would. But then I decided, no, no, I need to stop doing things for others before I do things for myself. So I learned to start to take care of myself. And the first thing I did was I started getting a massage every month, because I sat at a computer all day and worked with spreadsheets and figures, and my shoulders would just be, so that was my first thing. And I've been getting massages for like 30 years now. But that was my first step.
That's beautiful and a
Yeah.
practical one, doable. And how
Mhm.
did how did you feel the burnout in your body?
Oh, constantly tired. Constantly tired. I didn't want to do anything. And I had gained like 35 pounds, and just, you know, plus again, when we talk about integrity, when I go to work, I know that I was paid for work. And so at work, I was 9 to 5, did my job, did it very well, and all of that. But never appreciated, but they were paying me. So to me, that was a good trade. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
Yes.
But it was hard to do that and go to work and watch everyone else throw the work on your desk because they knew you'd do it. You know what I mean? But again, I was paid, so that was a different story for me, at least. I know that's not the case now. People only do what they want to do in a lot of cases at work, but then that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But as far as burnout, I just didn't want to do anything. I had no joy in my life. The only joy was my children. You know what I mean? And then they get to an age where they're not very fun to have around. You know what I mean? In that teenager stage and constantly wanting something and constantly, thinking you're an idiot and all those kind of things. And so I just had no joy at all. And so I just decided to try and find that.
Mm-hmm. So you just try out things.
Yeah, I just try different things. Like I can crochet now. I sew. You know what I mean? I like to read books, but when you work on spreadsheets all day, I
Yes.
can't look at paper when I get home. So I'm getting back to reading books and things like that. Art, paint, those kind of things.
Oh my gosh.
Creativity.
Creativity, exactly.
Poetry is very good. I like writing poetry, or especially when I was stuck. That really helped me a lot. They weren't very happy poems, but they got out a lot of emotion. And so I did, that was very helpful to me to write and to journal. And sometimes I'll just doodle or, whatever. But
Just to get
yeah,
it out, not to
yeah,
keep it inside to poison you. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. That's
yeah.
beautiful. I didn't know this about you and the poems. That's
Oh,
that's
yeah.
great.
I wrote poems for my grandkids when they were little. I'd make poems about them and, just, yeah, things I dawdle with. I don't really get too serious about it. I should, but I haven't yet. So,
Haven't yet.
mhm,
And now with this, what would you say to that woman who you were before? And then I would like to talk about your illness too, but from
mhm,
this place, from this wisdom, from this much improvement, what
mhm.
would you say to yourself, like that lonely woman, that mother, that cheated wife?
It's not your fault.
Hmm.
You are who you tell yourself you are. And if you continue to tell yourself that you're only this or only that, or you are abused, or you are neglected, or you are whatever you tell yourself you are, then that's who you'll be. Give yourself permission to tell yourself a different story, to write yourself a different story, to look ahead instead of behind, and release all of that guilt and shame that maybe was put on you so that the person whoever did this to you could justify the fact they were doing it.
Oh my gosh, that hit home. Yeah.
Yeah, doesn't it? And so, yeah, give yourself permission to remember who you are. Remember the little child that used to play with the sticks and look for rocks and pick flowers, and remember how that child felt or how that person felt. Um, find the joy. It's not easy, especially in this world with everything going on.
Yeah, please deep dive in now if you are willing to speak about that, your cancer journey. How
Um,
did it begin? What were the signs? I mean, looking back
well,
before
I
you
had
knew.
no signs. I was
Mhm,
perfectly healthy till they told me I wasn't.
mhm.
um, yeah, so I was 47 when I found myself alone again. And on my 51st birthday, my father took his own life. And let's just say that was traumatic. That was very traumatic. I didn't celebrate my birthday for several years after that. But it was also a turning point for me. I was alone and it was a turning point for me. And I had met someone else and was in a relationship with him, and he's very kind. I'm still with him. Um, we're not married because there's no need for that, but we are still together. But at work, when I told you about work and how heavy that was and how I was constantly the go-to girl and constantly, oh, she'll do it and all of that. I think
Yep.
just the weight of the work that I did every day, because I worked for a large agricultural lender that covered 4 states at that time. And I was doing the work for all 4 states, many times alone. I had helpers in other states, but the output of the work that I did was twice of what they were doing. And like I say, that was my, that's me. It didn't, I mean, I expected that of myself because it needed done and I just did it. Okay. Well, I think between the weight of that and just the all of the guilt and shame and things that I had carried all the years, it just came. Plus, going back a little bit before that, my mother died when I was 30 of ovarian cancer. So I hadn't had a mother, since I was 30. And I really didn't even know her as an adult. You don't know your mother until you're older. Oh, she's just your mother. You know what I mean? She's the one that tells you what to do and bosses you around. And, so you don't really know her. So I never really got to know her really as a person. She was gone. So that I was dealing with, no mother, my family pretty much, my siblings pretty much split after that as well. So there was no support there really. My all support was just my kids. So here I am at what I say, 51, my father is gone. And around, I'm trying to think how old I was when I made some notes so I wouldn't forget. Oh, I was 58. I mean, I don't know how detailed you want me to get, but I can go deep dive.
It's up to you.
Okay. I had this pink spot on the left side of my left breast, just a little tiny little pink spot. And I thought, well, that's really weird. It kind of looked like a bruise. It kind of didn't look like a bruise. And so I watched it and watched it and watched it. Finally, I think I was scheduled for a mammogram in June or July or something. But in May, I decided I better go in and just ask. He's like, nah, it's nothing. Wait till your mammogram.
Yeah.
Well, by the time my mammogram, this little pink spot had started to get hardened on the outside of my skin, not on the inside of my skin, on the outside of my skin. And it started to draw in to the breast. And it just looked funny. No pain, no nothing, no lumps, nothing. So I go for my mammogram and they're like, there's nothing there. But we're going to magnify it times 10 just because you've got this red spot. Well, here goes. I have a 3.5 centimeter tumor, ductal carcinoma, invasive ductal carcinoma, that never would have been found had I not had that pink spot on my breast. And I joke, I have, friends in heaven. And I said, I always joke that they were poking me in
Wow.
that spot, in that spot. Pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. So anyways, that started an 8-month journey of 3 biopsies, 2 surgeries, 8 rounds of chemo, all that stuff. And I continued to work because I was not sad. I did not cry. I was angry and I put my dukes up. I'm like, you are not taking me like you took my mother. I am not ready to go. And like I say, this is me being me. This is not your normal person, but this is me being me. So my dukes were up and I was like, nope, this cancer it's in a suitcase. I'm carrying it. It's not carrying me.
Oh,
So
wow.
I did whatever I could to take its power away from me. So I went to work every day. Even if I was throwing up, I went to work. If I could stand up, I went to work. And before all of this started, as soon as I was diagnosed, I told everyone, okay, this is what's going on. Please, I don't want you to treat me like I'm sick. I want you to treat me like I'm me. And they did. And that was a blessing. And that's how I got through it. There were no pity parties. There were no, none of that. I just did the work like I always did. Went to work, did the work, went to chemo, did the work, went to surgery, did the work, all of that. So Well, after I had a bilateral mastectomy, and after that, my surgeon told me you need to be off of work for 12 weeks. And I said 3, and she said no, 12. And I said 3, and she said okay, 6. And I said no, 3. And she said okay, fine. We'll see how you are after 3. I went back to work in 3 weeks
Oh,
because
wow.
I was not giving my power away. You know what I mean? I just wasn't going to allow it. That's all. That's all. And I got stubborn about it. And so then I just continued to work and live through a year of brain fog because chemo does that to you. And did the things I was supposed to do. And now I am 12 years cancer free. And they
Wow.
told me that I will not come back after you've gone, 10 years, it will not come back. So, and then
That's
they added this little note: if you get cancer again, it'll be something else. I'm like, really? You had to say that?
oh, wow. Yeah, I hate that about doctors too.
Anyways, it's all
Yeah,
good. But yeah, that was, it was, and then I cried. On the day they released me, I cried. Until that, I
after.
didn't. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't cry because I wasn't gonna show my weakness.
And you
But
were in a
again,
project.
yeah, yeah, but again, that's me. I know that's not the norm.
I love this story because I feel so strongly, and I want to touch upon this, the difference between somebody who is in denial, and that's why living the normal life, from the place of denial, and from
Sure.
that healthy anger that F you cancer,
Yes,
I believe that I'm healthy and have
yes.
that vision and have the same environment and have the so you can I'm just it's so weird. A lot of times we say that, yeah, when you have an ELS you just always have to focus on, and you focused on the meaning, and you learned from the traumas and became whole again and your authentic self. But it can be so easily mistaken, these two, I think, how you reacted and somebody who is in denial. And I
Mhm,
just want to point it out that it can maybe look the same from the outside, but from the inside
mhm,
it's a different motivation. And that fire, I felt this fire again in you, that no, I'm alive and I will be
mhm.
alive. It's
Yeah,
totally different that, oh, I don't know, everything's fine. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? Do you
yeah.
feel the difference, or do you know people
No,
who
I
act
I
like you,
totally,
but
yeah,
yeah.
I totally do. I feel the difference. Yeah, I mean, I was fine until they told me I wasn't, and I wasn't gonna allow them to tell me that I wasn't. Now, let me tell you, chemo makes you pretty darn sick. By my 8th round of chemo, I could barely walk. I had to hold on to the walls to balance myself, for a while. But I still drove myself to work, and I still drove myself to chemo, and I still, did all these things until I couldn't. And there were days that I would have to sit all day, or whatever. But um, yeah, again, you are who and what you tell yourself you are.
Oh, it's the
And I'm
story.
a warrior. I don't like being a cancer survivor. I like being a cancer ass kicker. You know what I mean? I don't like that survivor.
The victim.
Yes, I don't like that. Yeah, I don't like it at all. I want to say it didn't survive me. You know what I mean? That's the way I like looking at that. So,
I, I love that. I love this warrior woman energy. It's so important. It's not an aggressive, not a brutal,
no,
not a
not at
hurtful.
all.
It's a very strong, like
It's
a
just, yeah,
very alive wolf, mother wolf. Or
exactly. Yeah. And I didn't really know I had that in me until I opened that cage.
hmm.
You know what I
Wow.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's that important to just be yourself, because
Yes.
then everything else can just,
Yes.
adjust
Yes.
and move around you
Yes.
and find their own places.
Yes. You must give yourself permission. As women, we are always, Mother, may I? You know what
Uh-huh.
I mean?
Yeah.
You have the power to give yourself permission. You don't have to have anyone else's.
Oh my gosh. That's so powerful. And also nobody else can help you that way. that you
No,
can help yourself.
no, we come into the world alone and we're going to go out alone. So who we are in the middle is all up to us.
Oh my gosh, and how much time we spend and how much energy in focusing on other people's expectations where they don't even know themselves what they want, but they
No,
expect you to be this way, that way.
right. And another thing is we are not responsible for other people's reactions to us or to anything else. For the longest time, I tried to fix, this or that. No, you're an adult. I am not responsible for the way you perceive the world or the what you tell yourself or whatever. I'm going to represent myself authentically with integrity. And I'm sorry if you don't agree. I'm sorry if you don't, whatever, but it's not my responsibility to mold myself into something that's acceptable to you.
Oh my gosh, that's so important. And that's, I think, most women struggle with this, especially those who are obviously caring and empathetic and not just shallow
Yes,
people
yes,
that, oh, we want to carry all the stuff
yeah,
on our
yes,
shoulders.
yes. And it's hard to draw those lines because I still can't go into a store and say, oh, my grandchild would like this, but I'll be like, no, 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 they don't need it. You know what I mean? I still have issues with some boundaries, but yes,
Yeah, but maybe it's just life itself to kind of always in a move,
exactly,
change and
exactly. Yes, exactly.
wow. And so what does integrity mean to you now?
I have to be able to look at myself in the mirror and say I'm proud of myself and the choices that I have made. Integrity to me is doing and saying what you say you're going to do and say, and living. Yeah, I put more pressure on myself probably than anybody puts on me because the expectations that I have for the way I want God to see me or whoever else, the universe to see me, the universe to know me, the universe to accept me is what I put on myself, not what they do. You know what I mean? So the personal integrity to me is important. Also, I want to be seen as an like people used to say, you're the nicest person. They're going to put nice on your grave. There it's going to say the nicest person that ever lived on your gravestone. And finally I thought, no, I don't want to be nice. I
I
mean,
want to be happy.
I'm still nice. I'm still nice. You can be nice, but you can also be who you are and not apologize for that. You know
Ah,
what I mean?
yes, not apologize for that. That is so
Yeah.
important because that's what I've been doing most of my life. Oh,
Me
I'm
too.
sorry that I'm alive.
Me too. Me too. Me too. No, not anymore. I'm sorry. This is what you get. Take it or leave it. Another emotion I don't show is anger. I
Hmm.
have, that's not something that I allowed myself to live in much. I've had anger come into my life a couple times and it was not good because I have learned to suppress those feelings. But now the way I deal with anger is I talk myself through it. So if
Hmm.
something comes in, like someone triggers something, we all have triggers.
Yes.
Someone triggers something, then I kind of go through a list. Okay, did they intentionally mean to do that to be mean to me? Yes, no. Did they do it off cuff because they're angry or frustrated? You know, check, check. And I kind of talk myself through that until I can say, okay, that was not intentional. Do I need to react, not react? And many times I will actually just kind of chuckle to myself and go, if that was meant to trigger me, it's not going to work. You know what I mean? Or if that was meant to make me angry, then again, I have control of the way I react. I have control of what I allow to get to me. I really do process. I have kind of a little process that it goes through my head, and I just kind of filter that out and sift it through and then if it's something that's really important, I will comment, I will react, I will, but most of the time it's not worth it. You know
I
what I mean?
I get
And
it.
and I just it's their issue, not mine.
Again,
Yes.
a very important difference here, but I'm sensing that
Yes.
it can seem the same from the
Yes.
outside, that somebody's suppressing something and not feeling the anger for a couple of seconds because that's what they meant to do, emotions,
Yes.
just a couple of seconds,
Yes.
and not just
Yes.
become feelings that we dwell in. So there's a difference. You process
Yes.
it, you just don't dwell in it or don't show it
Right.
to the world.
Yes. And I feel much lighter. You know what I
Aha.
mean? I don't carry that. I don't carry that stuff anymore. I just now there are, like I say, there are certain things that can get to me if I let them. But most of the time I don't allow it. I am a mama bear. I will stand up, for those kind of things and all of that. But if the fight's not worth fighting, if it's not my fight, I'm not going to do it.
And that's wisdom and discernment. Yes, I love it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love when you said that maybe we should, those who lost the connection with our bodies, maybe we should just look for that expansion, that weight coming off our shoulders, that liberating
Yeah.
feeling,
Yeah.
that ease,
Hmm.
joy.
And allow yourself to have it.
Hmm.
Again, you may feel it and be like, oh, I'm not allowed to feel like that.
Hmm.
Oh, I have to carry this weight. If it's not yours, don't carry it.
Yeah, wish somebody told me that before. Yeah, again, some of us are more traumatized than others, and we were
Yes.
told that no, you have to carry it for others because she's too weak. She cannot carry it. You have to carry it. Like,
Okay, but look how long that took me. You know what I mean? Yeah.
yeah, but some people never get there. And when I've worked as a physician, I saw so many people just rather die than still couldn't let go those old patterns.
Hmm. Yeah.
And just, yeah.
Well, change is frightening for some people. I welcome change. I love change. I'm the lady that changes my living room furniture every 3 months because I don't want it I don't want it to feel the same. Or if something doesn't feel right, yeah, yeah. So I like change.
Yeah, change is life pretty much.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I just wrote down so many questions for you,
All
but
right.
maybe I have asked
All
one
right.
from this sheet.
Keep going.
Just a tiny bit. Okay.
Keep going.
Ah, yeah. Okay. What matters to you now that didn't matter or didn't know that mattered before? And the other way around too. What is that you don't care about anymore that you used to care?
I used to care what people thought
Hmm.
of me. I used to care, yeah, of how I looked. And I mean, I still, if someone's going to see me, I care. If it's just me, like today, I actually, put on my earrings.
Yes. Thank you.
Um,
Beautiful.
um, I care more about what I eat and what I put into my body. Before it was just feed the kids, feed yourself, and I care less about if my house is clean and more about if my mind is clear and
Oh, wow.
if um yeah, I care more about my connection with the universe. I care more about learning more about that. You know what I mean? I care more about that. Um yeah, way less about, I mean, I have a lot of stuff. Let me tell you. Again, I'm a Taurus. I like stuff. But I'm working on that too. I'm working on getting rid of my stuff. But I do love beautiful things and I love things from nature and I love the earth. So that's the natural stones and all of that kind of stuff. But um, I care mostly about my children and the welfare of my children and my grandchildren. However, they're adults now. My oldest daughter is 54 years old. I I don't agree with their life decisions, but I allow them to make them. I'm not going to interfere in that. It's not my job. They know what I think about it, but I'm not gonna, so my grandchildren, I'm very committed to having them be good people, good humans. I care about that. I care about kindness. I care about people, but I will not save them from themselves. I will show them how, but I won't do that anymore. It's not my job and it's way too hard.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes being kind is tough. It's tough love.
Yes. Yes. Very much.
No, I love that. I will take this with me because, yeah, when it comes to my children,
Oh,
granted they are
that's the
still small,
hardest. Like
but
I say,
yeah,
that's the place where I would be could become fearful is my
exactly.
children and those things. And but I just have to remember when that little voice tells me that, I'm like, nope, you're wrong. We're all good today. Don't tell me
Wow.
that because it's not happening today. Not
Wow.
today.
So you kind
Yeah.
of control your mind somewhat.
Yes, you need
Listen
to.
to,
You must, because you know that voices come from not so positive places sometimes.
yes, yes,
And
and it's
and
so
what you're hearing
misleading.
may not be your own voice.
Oh, say it again. That's so important.
What we are hearing may not be our own voice. So that's where your discernment comes in, and that's where the processing comes through in for me, is that I'm like, okay, is that something I would have thought normally? Because have you ever gotten morbid thoughts or violent thoughts? I mean, through the years, I've had things come through my head that I'm like, who is this talking? That is not me. You know what I mean?
Yes,
So
yes,
being able to discern that and to, I say banish it,
yeah,
not dismiss, because you really need to banish those and say that's not acceptable. I am not allowing that.
yes. Boundaries, even with yourself and with your
Yes,
standards.
yes,
I
very
love
much
it.
so. Very much so.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
you're getting me into things I didn't think I would be talking about.
I love talking to you. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you are sharing these. Every word is so important.
Oh, good.
Especially, I work with women too, and I remember myself even just, I don't know, 5 years ago or a year ago, and so much crap and misconcepts, and we need to talk about this, and I'm so grateful. This is wonderful. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. And now tell me then, you can talk about whatever you want and as deep as you want, but what is your practice that can help you keep your peace and your integrity? It can be anything. And I want to touch upon the light language stuff. So if it is, welcome.
Okay.
But if it's something else, I will invite you to share
Okay.
some at the end. So
All right. Well, let's see. It was around 2019, and this is where we're talking about my children. Um, my daughter was in a situation that was not good, and she needed to move from northern Ohio back home. And so I bought a property, and she lives there now, and rents it from me. But I bought a property and it was not in very good shape. So we were repairing it and getting permits, and it was very stressful. And she was up there and I was down here and all of that. And it came to a point where I just couldn't handle it between working all the time and everything. And I had what I call a mini breakdown. It
uh-huh.
lasted about, I'm going to say 2 days, but I just couldn't. I couldn't talk, I couldn't walk, I couldn't cry, I just had this little collapse. And it was then, and I know myself extremely well, and that's another thing. You need to know who you are. You need to know yourself very well. That's the first thing, is know who you are, what your limits are, what your boundaries are, what your love is, what your hate is, whatever those things are. You must know yourself. So I knew myself, and I knew this was temporary, and I knew it was just my body saying, okay, you can't do all of this. You got to stop. you're at a point you just need to take a break. So I took a couple days, pulled myself together, and decided that there was too much noise in my life. And when I
Mhm.
meant noise, I meant everything: sounds, distractions, movement, everything. And by then it was COVID, so I was able to work from home. So where I'm sitting here now is where I worked for like 18 months. And during that time, I shut off all the noise. The only thing I listened to was music with no words. So there was no speech coming in to me at all, only what I dealt with at work. I listened to music, vibrations,
Mhm.
sound waves, anything. But that's all. Very limited television. I didn't even watch. He'd turn on the television, I'd go to another room. Just total silence. And I started to listen to the silence. The answers are in the silence. And I'm about to cry as I tell you that. But that's where they are. They're in the silence. That's where I started to hear myself again. I could hear myself thinking. I could hear myself processing, but all within the silence. And if that makes sense to you, then you know what I mean.
Yes, it makes perfect sense.
And in the silence, there's much wisdom that comes to you just naturally because it's already there. You see what I mean? It's already there. It's just we can't hear it because we are so distracted from the noise of life.
Yes, I absolutely agree. Whenever I had these breakdown moments, I just needed to be alone
Yes.
with
And
that
I
quiet.
I sat there with my grief. I sat there with my abandonment. I sat there with the hurt and the pain and all of that. And I sat in that and I allowed myself to wallow in that, though not pitying myself, just understanding it, just understanding that. And much of it, knowing that much of it was done to me, not done by me. And so that really wasn't mine to carry. You know what I mean? It was so, and I still have my trigger points. There are certain things that were so embedded in me or so much a part of my heart that still there are triggers. There are certain things that can trigger me to go back to that. And then I go back to the silence. I also ground myself now. And what I mean is, I go out and I stand in the earth. The earth's very important to me, the wind, the water, the all of that. But in the winter, when that's hard, you know where I go? I go to greenhouses that are open.
Ah, that's brilliant. That's good.
I go to the greenhouse, and I think they know me by now. But if someone comes in there and doesn't know that I put my hands out and I touch them and I close my eyes and I walk the aisles and I feel all the energy from the plants, I do that in the winter a lot. Um, I will also put on videos of the water splashing up on the. I need that water sound.
Oh,
Um, but yeah, greenhouses are wonderful because in the winter no one's in there, just the plants, and just the people working and the people trimming. And if they're open in the winter, they're wonderful because they're warm and they're light and they're just full of life. So I
I
gotta go there a lot.
I
I
never thought
bothered
of that. It's
I bothered
brilliant.
I bothered the Amish girls down at there. They're all like, "Oh, it's her again." No, they don't really. No, they don't really, but they yeah. Like on my birthday, we went to Lake Erie. And it was not the nicest of days, but we went up to the Headlands Beach. I don't know if you're familiar where that is. It's in Mentor.
No,
So
not
I
yet.
don't know how far that would be from you, but it's a beautiful rocky, like little rocky pebbly beach that you can find glass. And if your
Oh,
boys like digging in that, they would love it.
oh,
It's very friendly. But so he took me up to the Headlands Beach because he knows that I need to hear that water and I need to be out there. And so I spent an hour and a half in the cold. It was cold up there, Lake Erie it was Sunday morning and we were up there by 10 o'clock, but it was cold. But I spent 2 hours up there digging through the rocks and listening to the water. And I got my feet wet and all kinds of things, but it just, it rings true to my soul when I'm there, you know? So, but yeah, that's what I do. I try to ground and try to connect. And sometimes I'll sit on the porch and look at the stars, and just connect.
just
But
be present with the beauty.
just be present. And I think that's one thing that another thing was gratefulness. So
Mhm.
listening to the silence, I'm also very grateful. I mean, I would not be who I am today had I not gone through all of that stuff. And I'm very thankful for that. Though it's not easy, I kind of like to think about it as a library. And all those lessons I've put in books and they're on the shelf.
Wow.
And
That,
if I need them, I can go get them, and look at them and learn from them and whatever, but I don't need them. They're on the shelf. And there are a lot of things that I think have forgotten on, not intentionally, but I don't need them anymore, so I don't have to think about that anymore, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's like my library and I just throw them all on the shelf.
so you have your lesson, but after it can
It's
be just
it's
in the
over.
archive.
You don't need to revisit it unless you need to learn something again. But yeah,
That's very wise. So not dwell on the past and not holding grudge.
the
In
older you get, you can look at other human beings and see them as they really are. Most of us are just wounded children
yes,
who didn't get the attention that we needed, and not because they didn't want to, they didn't know how, because they didn't get it either.
yes, yes. So
You know
it's
what
a
I
vicious
mean?
circle.
And
Yeah.
we all do better in our own way. We all try to do better in our own way, but we all end up making mistakes anyways. They're different mistakes, but they're still, things that, yeah, you do until you know better, and then you do better.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
Self acceptance and at the same time high standards, and it's not excluding each other.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No. Oh, I'm trying to think, but yeah, the greenhouse is a good one. if they're open, you need to go suck it up. The plants love to share their energy with you.
I've never heard anyone saying that. That's brilliant. That's
Again,
such
that's
a good
that's
idea.
me. I told you I'm a little weird, so I'm
I love
a
weird.
little quirky. So there you go.